I've always been interested in your style. It's very I don't even know how to describe it really. I mean, I think it's very distinct. Like when I see your shit, I'm like, oh, Isaac's style. I don't know.
And that's good to hear because most of the time when people are like, this really reminds me of
Yeah, I mean,
Instagram, they bring it up, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh god,
this dude and this
yeah,
dude and
great,
fucking this dude.
great dick
But
measuring contest now, sweet.
yeah, right.
No, yeah, I actually mostly got that stuff from. I mean, I started out with like I really like Dragon Ball Z, and I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
Dragon Ball Z. I'm gonna be a manga artist, I'm
yeah,
gonna become a mangaka when I get older, and like, and slowly I just started getting into like tattoo culture, and I started getting into like illustrations through like illustrations, and then I ran into a couple people on Instagram actually that were like super like bold and like they had always had like some like crazy like oh my god there's titties on there, it's always something like that.
yeah.
And for me it kind of stuck out because it was like a silence. It was not like a silent statement because it was pretty loud, but silent
Right.
in the words of like, what I mean. I'm gonna do I'm gonna, produce what I feel, and
Oh
that's
yeah,
it. So
for
that was
sure.
pretty cool. And it kind of eventually it just kind of like molded into what it is now. And I don't know. It's like illustration, I guess. It's like
Yeah, I feel that. Like
yeah,
that's how I feel. I guess when describing your styles, like
I
illustrated,
think
because you'll draw a lot of objects, but in a really interesting way. I
yeah,
don't know.
it's simple
Well, I love like
objects.
the
Yeah,
how you. A lot of times you just do like ink, black and white or something. But then you'll add subtle colors or
hmm
something too, or whatever. I really like that shit. It's
yeah.
crazy, but
It kind of like draws your eye to it, and it's like I don't know. A lot of people like are really oversaturated. Like they have these super colorful, huge paintings, and they're like, there's so much color and it's so cool. And you look at it, and you're like, well, but really, if you stand 10 feet back, it looks like a pile of like, colors, like
yeah,
just like. So like to have it black and white, like pretty much makes it like a little bit more primal. Like this is what it is, and you know what I mean. That's it. And you
yeah,
have a little bit of color, so it's like that's how I feel like life is. Like you look for this like little like piece of like inspiration or color and stuff. So
hmm
it's cool to have like a nice illustration and a reward, I guess, to have the color or whatever
yeah,
in there. So
definitely.
it makes it that much more like poppy, I guess.
Fuck yeah. So what got you started into art anyway? Have you just been doing it your whole life, or?
Yeah, yeah, actually. A lot of people ask me like, man, I wish I could, I wish I was as good as you. You're so lucky, man. It's like, oh man, I had a mom like who taught my elementary school actually for art.
Your mom?
Yeah, my mom
Really?
did. Yeah, when
Wow.
I was younger, and my dad it was always like a super hard worker, but he supported her like way back in the day. Even though they were broke up, he still like because he knew it was my mom or whatever. So
hmm
she like I would always get like these mannequins or something from my dad. He'd be like, I found these in the trash and they look weird, so I figured you might like them. She's like, oh, I love them. And, like, I remember being a little kid and being like, Mom, I want a transformer. She's like, you can make your own. She like handed me this pile of like wires and
What?
stuff. Yeah.
That's really cool, honestly. Like to force you to be creative in a way,
Yeah.
or give you the tools to kind of,
Yeah. It
or
was
even
really
the
cool.
thought to like just do it yourself or
Yeah.
be creative, or
Yeah. It
or
like,
whether they're just like, I'm not fucking buying you that shit. Here's some wires. Or
yeah.
whether
Yeah.
you're really
Like that's
like
what it
sparking
feels
your
like.
creativity or something. But that's
Yeah.
really cool. So
She was great because like, but it was weird because like thinking back about it, like you have stages of thinking back about your mom. Like when I was like 18 or like 17 or whatever, it's like my mom never got me toys; she just gave me wire. You know what I
yeah,
mean? When
right.
I was a kid, I was like, my mom gave me wire, yes.
Yeah.
And now I'm back to the stage where I'm like, my mom gave me wire, dude. I'm so glad she gave me wire instead of
Yeah.
toys.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
So
And
it-
so you've been drawing for as long as you know. And
yeah,
shit,
as long as I can
basically.
remember.
Yeah. So what led to basically the style that you take on now? I mean, I know you said you were interested in doing manga.
Yeah.
Like, and then Dragon Ball Z and stuff.
It's a long journey figuring out. Like it's taken me a long time to kind of get to this point where like when I draw something, I'm like, yeah, I know that's me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm not like copying off someone else anymore. Like it's after I'm gonna be 27 here this year, and now it's finally getting to the point where I can do that. It came from a lot of like both replicating and doing by myself for long periods of time. You got to kind of do them in like long spurts. Like for a long time, you got to replicate stuff because you have to know how it looks. You have to know how it moves and blah blah blah. And then you have a stage where you go only style, and you realize where the line should be, but you know where it would look good to be.
Yeah.
So it's more of like an evolution of it, if you will. You know, it starts off something that I think would be cool, and eventually it just turned into something like it is today. And I have a lot of influence also through older artists, because I'm mostly traditional, you know, almost all traditional in what I use for media. So like, you know, Leonardo da Vinci was like my guy, you know, like that's my man, you
Yeah.
know. He said, like, I remember there's a quote that said something about how he said that you're not an artist if you can't draw a man falling out of a window and be done before he hits the ground. And I heard that, and it was like, you know,
Wow.
and then I found out that all my favorite manga artists, like when they draw, they could just go fast because they had the image already in their head, and they were just, you know, so it kind of got me motivated into doing the stuff I do now. And Japanese culture and illustration is all about where to put the line, you know, like doing the best with the least, I guess is what I meant to say.
So when did you first hear that quote?
Oh man, it was like, it had been high school, but I had been fed little pieces of art history, you know, throughout my life through my mom and all these old artists I hung out with that were her friends that I didn't even know until later on, like worked at like the Figgy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know.
So were you just like, oh, now I got to draw fast and shit?
Yeah, I hit that for a little while, and then I also like started realizing, I was like, but he was doing it to like study, and I'm doing it to like to make an image that's finished. Because when he did finished images, it was like the paintings that we all see in museums. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like I had to realize at a point also that I need to start slowing down and making finished images that were more polished and more ready to, you know, be seen by people. Because I like sketches. I'll pay for a sketch more than I'll pay for a painting, but that's just because I know the framework that goes into that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
So now, since you've been doing art your whole life, basically, has it always been like, I want to do this for a living type of thing, or develop that in that way? Or was it just all for fun for a while, and then you're like, later on you decided, oh, maybe I would pursue this for...
It kind of was like, I don't know, it was like I didn't have a choice, but I don't know how to explain it. Like it just kind of was natural. Like
Yeah.
it was just a thing I'd always done, and I always loved to do it. And at this point in my life, it's part of my life. I can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like just stopping wearing shoes for me, you know?
Yeah.
Like so I kind of realized at one point, I was like, so I'm really like, I was always kind of strange to the stuff I wore, and I always like would want different things. So I kind of applied the stuff that I wanted with the stuff that I produced already, and ended up being something like it's, you know, like Tired Eyes is about to be.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. I really am, because this is like my brain baby of my entire life. You know.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
All my aspirations creatively are going into this, and especially since like I recently have become a musician. You know, kind of. I say that because I mean I've always been in art, so when I got into music, it was strange because I was like,
No way.
yeah, and everyone's like, have you heard this band? I'm like, no, and I'll start listening to AC/DC. Sometimes people are like, oh, come on, man, AC/DC, and I was like, you know, I've only heard this like 10 times my entire life, so for me it sounds great, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it didn't always. A couple times in my life, I did think like maybe I'm just a simpleton, you know. Maybe I'll die in a job where I'm just doing retail for the rest of my life. Not that that's a bad thing, but that for me creatively, that would be, you know, that would be suicide. You know,
Right,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
so yeah, there was a couple times. There was a lot of rough times, you know, or homeless, you know, and you're trying to sell art, and you know, people are in a world that people are saturated in it. So
Well, I'm sure having that struggle come along with it would really add fuel to your fire.
yeah, it's got to
I'm sure.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most
the pain
definitely.
is part of it, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Of
the
course.
struggle makes it that much better.
That's what brings out probably the best art people have ever seen, is probably like pain and struggle, you know.